Okay, so Pierre, I listened to this on how to pronounce this. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. This is his description of how new species are born in nature. Pressure builds up in a phylum, a life system, until a point is reached where a new peduncle, a new life form, bursts forth as a new bud of a whole new phylum. Or the pressure subsides and the system regresses back into itself, stabilizes, and remains the same, at least for a moment. Yet the urge to grow, to create, to move upwards in evolution will eventually cause the system to try again at a later point. Now, I read this last night, and I was just so taken by it. And it made me think of, just throughout history, as we look back, there are always these points. It's like I can go back into the 1800s and read, and it's like we're at this critical point right now, and go back into the early 1900s, we're at this critical point right now, and into 1940s, we're at this critical point right now, and here we are in 2015, almost 16, and we're at this critical point right now, and it just really hit me that we have an opportunity. And just as the song said, to go deeper to our sacred source, really go back in to that greater dimension of who and what we truly are, and to make the absolute commitment to live from that in order that we don't regress, in order that we don't once again kind of go back to what has always been. And the reality, my friends, is that we are at a critical point, that, we look around in our world today, and there's a lot happening that that does not feel very good, and it's so important for us to make the decision that we are going to be a part of what is going to help propel love to that tipping point, to where it is what finally will bring what it is that we all desire, and that is, we desire peace on our planet. We desire there to be oneness and connection and love and goodness and kindness and compassion. But we have to be the ones to say that we are willing to commit to that, not just to say, yeah, I want to be a part of that. Yeah, that sounds really good. And then we go back out into our lives and we're the same. We have to make the commitment deep within ourselves that, yes, I'm going deeper. And I am going to anchor myself into my sacred source. And I'm going to do everything that I can every day in every way to live from that place and to show up as love. As love. Because you know what? There's only one presence and one power in the universe and in our lives, and that is God, right? That's what we say. 1 John 4:8 says God is love. So there's only one presence and one power in the universe and in our lives, and that is love. And all of us have come forth from this one creative impulse that is love. And I believe that we have come forth to be the purest expression of that we can possibly be. And ultimately today, what we have the opportunity to do is to help bring our planet back into alignment. Now, I will share with you that in Unity, we are not suggesting that you bury your head in the sand, because the reality is we can't. I was reading a Facebook post from Amy Shellhart this morning, or listening to it, and it was interesting because it was talking about the radical terrorist, and it was very eye-opening to me, but what I loved about it was it put it into perspective, and it said we have to have the conversations about this, that the reality is these things are happening all around us. And so from a very practical perspective, we need to do what we need to do to protect ourselves, to protect our families. We just need to do what we need to do in order to just make sure we're all going to be okay as that we're all going to be okay. And so we do that, but then what we do is we say, okay, I've done the practical part of this, and now what I'm going to do is I am going to I am going to be a part of what I know will transform this planet. And I am going to be a part of love. And I am going to choose that as I go into my workplace, as I go in my family environment, I'm in my neighborhood, I'm in the shopping places, I'm on the road, whatever, I'm going to choose over and over and over again to come back to that place within me that remembers who I am, to that place within me that is saying there's a different way that I can be in this. And if I want peace on my planet, then guess what? And what do we sing every week? What do we sing at the end of the service? Yeah, right. Let it begin with me. And that is where it begins, with each and every one of us. And every single one of us today, every one of us is called to that higher place, every single one of us. And it's a powerful and impactful thing. And I hope that each of us will make that commitment to show up in love as much as we can. Okay, so I love the Christmas movies. Movies like A Christmas Carol, where we have Scrooge, and I don't know. but where Scrooge is, he's just, miserly, and he's mad at the world, and then, he's visited by, are they angels? Because I can never remember, because I love the movie Scrooged. Spirits. That's interesting, huh? he's because it could be spirits of another kind, so is it like, yeah. Okay, so he's visited by 3 spirits, and they show him his life as it was, his life as it is, and what his life could be. And all of a sudden what happens is that love starts to fill his heart, and love just breaks down all of this gruff exterior, and he becomes this giving, loving, compassionate person. And then we have how the Grinch stole Christmas. And, the Grinch was, as a young boy, was made fun of. Stuff happened around Christmas. He hated Christmas. He became a recluse. He didn't want anything to do with Christmas and people, and he was grumpy and grouchy, and he wanted to steal Christmas from everybody. But this one little girl, who was the absolute innocence and purity of love, kept seeing him, not seeing this exterior. She kept seeing him. And even in those times when he still showed up as that, that pure innocence of love broke down that exterior. And his heart grew 3 sizes, and he became this expression of love. And then Miracle on 34th Street, where the woman probably had some bad relationships in the past, didn't want to have a relationship. She didn't believe in Santa Claus, but she worked in the industry. And St. Nicholas comes, and a man comes into her life, and through this whole, and her daughter is all about, the expression of Santa Claus. And again, it's love. It's love that breaks through these walls, this tough exterior. And how many of us have seen this movie? I love Elf. It's so fun. So it's awesome. And so he is adopted by the elves in the North Pole, and he grows up with the elves, and of course he's way taller than the elves, and he finds out that he has a biological father in New York. Now, he is pure innocence, pure joy, happy love, everything is good in Christmas spirit. So he takes off by himself to New York to go find his dad, who is a businessman. And he doesn't really have the spirit of Christmas in him at all. And here comes this ginormous son. But ultimately what happens is that that Christmas spirit, which we know the Christmas spirit is love, ultimately, again, breaks down those barriers. And this man opens up. And I share this because it's the power of love. And even though these are movies, it really speaks to us. And when we watch these movies, like, how do you feel at the point at which, don't you just feel like, oh, and sometimes you cry cry, we cry at the end of It's a Wonderful Life. It's just like so wonderful because that's the reality of who we are. That's pinging on that vibration of who and what we truly are. And it's saying, yes, 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 even though this is a movie, that is a reality, that love always wins, that love is the absolute answer. Love is the only power. The late Reverend Eric Butterworth, from his book Life is for Loving, says that love is the foundation of the creative process, the root of the reality of the universe and the very nature of the infinite power and presence that we call God. All things began with love. Genesis says, in the beginning God, but then John says God is love. The Word is love. Thus, paraphrasing John, in the beginning was love, and love was with God, and love was God. And God said, let us make man in our image and likeness. And this image likeness is the transcendent nature of creative love. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Thus it is that man is created in and of love. I'm going to read that sentence again. Thus it is that all humankind is created in and of love. No matter how far he may stray from the root of reality into the circumference of living, it is always true in principle, in the beginning, that he is rooted and grounded in the allness of love. The chief work of man's life is always to call to remembrance his true nature, which is created in the image and likeness of God, who is love, and to get on with the business of life, which is for loving. Yes, which is for loving. And isn't that beautiful? That's who we are. That's who actually everyone is. Even the people that seem to be nothing close to that. That's who they are. We are created in the image and likeness of love. So one of my favorite Christmas movies, and I would imagine many of yours, is It's a Wonderful Life. How many of us love It's a Wonderful Life? Great movie, isn't it? Okay, so although I can't imagine that there are many of you who haven't seen it, I'm going to give you a short synopsis of this movie. So George Bailey, who is played by Jimmy Stewart, his father and his uncle own the Bailey Brothers Building and Loan Association. And they're a small town lender who really, really, really care about people. But then there's the villain, Mr. Potter. And Mr. Potter, he's just this gruff old man, and he doesn't care about people, and like the houses that people live in that they rent from Mr. Potter are broken down, and he just cares about the bottom line, and he just wants to own the entire town. Well, George is the firstborn son, and so he spends 4 years working for the business he spends 4 years working for the business. And then he's supposed to go off to school and to enjoy the world. But what happens is that George's dad dies, and he feels obligated to take the business over. So he lets his brother Harry go on to school, and then Harry also becomes active in the military. Well, and so then when Harry came back, he was supposed to take over the business, but as things go, he didn't, and so George falls in love and has a family. And so ultimately what happens is it gets to the point where it's starting to show now that George is really not happy. He's, does not like in what he's doing. It's never what he wanted to do. He's grumpy. There's just so many pressures of this. And so one day, his uncle accidentally loses $8,000, and the bank examiner is there. So this is like a big, huge deal. And so George is frantic. He's mad, and he finally decides that he is better off. Everybody is better off if he was dead rather than alive, because they could get his life insurance. Well, then this angel shows up, and this angel's name is Clarence. And Clarence really wants to get his wings. And so he's there to try to help George see what a wonderful life that he has. And so as George is thinking about jumping in the water, all of a sudden Clarence jumps in the water. So George has to jump in the water after him and save Clarence. And so they get off to this little place, and then Clarence starts talking to George about how, I saved you. And George is like, what are you talking about? I jumped in and saved you. And so it's, he's not obviously believing that Clarence is an angel. Well, George finally says, I just wish I'd never been born. And Clarence realizes, oh, this is it. This is the way. This is going to wake him up. And so he said, okay, your wish is granted. And so he's not born. And so they go back into what was Bedford Falls, and now it has become Pottersville. And in Pottersville, everything is run down. There's all kinds of bars. People are crazy. His mom, of course, doesn't recognize him. People have turned mean and just awful. And even his wife, has become a spinster. I believe we used the term old maid in other days. And so he finally just realizes, oh my gosh, I want to live. I want to live. I want to live. I want to live. And so he returns to Bedford Falls, and he's just met by all of his family and friends. And the beautiful thing about it is that the entire town of people come, and they'd give their money in order to make up for this deficit. And it's just happy, happy, joy, joy. Everything is good. Love wins. Yay. We really like that. Okay. So I want to share with you a few lessons that we can glean from the movie. Clearly, life did not go exactly as George had planned. And anybody ever have that in their life where things didn't quite go as you planned? Anybody? Just a few of us. That's good. Okay. And for me, what this is reminding me anyway is to trust the unfoldment of whatever is occurring in our lives. Because when we really go deeper and we remember our sacred source, we remember that we can never be separate from that, and that love always has our back, and that love is always going to gently nudge us in a direction that is really going to bring us greater and greater joy, and especially when we're plugged in, consciously, plugged into it. And here's the thing is that sometimes when we're in situations that aren't what we thought they were going to be, my friends, we lose sometimes years of our life by staying in misery. We lose years of our life by focusing on what isn't working, what's not good. And the reality is this, and I'm going to tell you this, is that no matter what is occurring, we always, always, always have the opportunity to divert our attention and to really start to recognize our blessings. Because I promise you, there are multitudes of blessings in our lives. No matter what is going on, there's always something to be grateful for. And when I think about this, and perhaps we're in a situation that, is just not working well for us, it doesn't mean we're going to stay in the situation. That's the thing about this. Love doesn't mean, hey, I'm a doormat. I always say, if you're ever in any type of an abusive situation, step away from that 100%. But love isn't a doormat. What it means is I'm going to shift my attention, and I'm not gonna let my life pass me by because this aspect of my life isn't working. I'm not going to allow myself to be in a victim consciousness and to take that energy, because when we're in that place, what kind of energy are we taking into any experience that we're having? Yeah. And so I'm going to choose that I'm going to be in the experience of my life now. And the great thing about this is as we shift our focus and we start looking at and really appreciating the blessings of our lives, then things start to shift in our life. And that is just always going to happen. I can promise you that 100%. It's always going to happen. And then we're going to have even more to be grateful for. It's not magic. It's just how the universe works. And I love how when he came back into town, the very things that were always there for him, he is just now, Merry Christmas, movie house, Merry Christmas, Emporium, Merry Christmas to you, old building and loan. And I know that many times in our lives, we miss what's right in front of us. And then when something is taken away, all of a sudden we have a new appreciation, right? And we have that opportunity right now, in this moment, to really wake up and to be in appreciation for, all the ways that we are so blessed in our lives. The second thing is that your life matters, and you have no idea how much your life matters. And I want to say that to every single one of us. Every person's life matters. And sometimes I think that we forget that, because we think that in order for our life to matter, we have to be doing some big, grand, marvelous thing. And it's the little things in life that really ripple out and make a difference. I love with George, Clarence showed him that if George hadn't been born, then George's brother Harry, he fell into the ice water and George saved him. But Harry would have died, and consequently a battalion of men that Harry saved, they would have died as well. And so it's just recognizing that love is oneness. That is what love is. Love is oneness. And every act of kindness and compassion and love and goodness, every act doesn't just go to the person or persons. That ripples out, and it continues to ripple on. I love that Clarence said to him, "Strange, isn't it? Each man's life touches so many other lives. When he isn't around, he leaves an awful hole, doesn't he?" And the third thing is that kindness, generosity, and compassion will always come back tenfold. That I'm going to tell you right here, right now, you can never, ever give too much. Kindness, love, generosity, and compassion. You cannot do it. And I want to encourage us, to give that lavishly in our lives. And I look at just the story in the movie where that's who George was. He was constantly there for all the townspeople. He was always giving this love and kindness and compassion, and they would go to people's houses as they were able to buy them, and they would be there to celebrate. And in the end, it came back tenfold plus, as all the townspeople came to be there for him. And again, this is what changes the world. This is what changes the world. It's each and every one of us being that expression and choosing over and over and over again to be that expression of kindness and love and compassion. And then the last one is that love always wins, and love does always win. 1 Corinthians 13, the end of it says, love never fails. Love never, ever, ever fails, even in the worst of circumstances. Now recognize here that Mr. Potter did not have a spiritual experience in this movie. He didn't change in this movie. And sometimes we're called to just let people be where they are without trying to change them in order for us to be okay. That they'll get there, eventually. But that the greater reality of love is what took hold of this entire community and helped this community to come together and to, in a way, defeat the evil villain. And so as we look at our world today, I just see so many similarities in that, and I see the opportunity that we have when there's so much that is being talked about, and it's so fear-based, and there's so much anxiety. They're just it's crazy, isn't it? I love technology, but it's like overkill on this stuff. And we can get bombarded with it, and we ourselves can move into that place. And that is why I think today is so important to really make that commitment that we are willing to go deeper. Make that commitment that we are willing to show up as the purest expressions of love that we can possibly be in every experience in our lives. And we're going to fall short sometimes. And in those times that we fall short, do we have the opportunity to make an amend? If we have an opportunity to make an amend, I encourage us to do that, because that act of love will make a difference. If we don't have an opportunity to make an amend, we look and say, how would I do this differently the next time? But for every single one of us that shows up as that over and over and over. Think about all of us going out, and we have interactions with people, how many times in a day, and that every day we're saying, I'm here to be the expression of love, of oneness, kindness, compassion, goodness, hope. And each one of us does that, over and over and over and over again, and that ripples out. And then that ripples out from other people, and it really does become this, it multiplies exponentially. And then, my friends, we hit the tipping point. We finally hit the tipping point. And all of a sudden, things in our world start to change. But it takes each one of us. And so as you sit here today, you matter. As you sit here today, guess what? You could be that one that takes us to that tipping point. So don't ever diminish your value. Don't ever diminish how important you are, because every single one of us matters in the greater whole. So I hope that you will join me. I am going to create a vision in my own beingness well beyond Christmas of seeing, love being that which heals our planet. But I'm also very much making the commitment to choose to be the purest expression of love that I can be. And again, I hope you'll join me. So namaste. Namaste.